Elizabeth I was a rainbow of characteristics. She was cunning, vain, kind, very smart, and is one of the most successful celebrated queens in British history. She ruled for 45 years from 1558 to 1603 following the death of her older half-sister, Mary I, while her rule is well known for ushering in a golden age and generally considered one of the most glorious in English history. Elizabeth herself is also known for her distinctive makeup. Her makeup gave her an iconic look, but it also may have been the thing that killed her. As she tried creating her iconic look, she might have just caused her own death. Today we look at what may have caused the death of Queen Elizabeth I. During the Elizabethan era, white pale skin was considered incredibly beautiful by the English upper class. During her reign there was a popular makeup called Venetian cerise. This was a highly sought-after skin whitener by the European aristocracy due to its high quality, and it was frequently used to conceal scars, and that gave women an incredibly pale look. To achieve her iconic white look, Queen Elizabeth applied layers of the makeup on a daily basis that ate away at her flesh. Her skin was getting worse and worse as she applied the makeup, and she put more of the toxic substance on the skin to try and cover up the effects of the actual product itself, and it got worse. This was because the Venetian cerise makeup was made of vinegar and lid, which is very harmful and poisonous to the skin. Science has proven that lid is a toxic substance that should not be applied on the skin, as it causes very serious and irreversible problems like hair loss, skin deterioration, and death by lead poisoning. Two things Elizabeth suffered from as she got older. Well, lead was not the only poison in her pigments. Elizabeth wanted her lips as red as they could be. She got her iconic red lips by the use of cinnabar. Cinnabar is a mineral containing mercury, another harmful substance. Elizabeth loved lipstick. For a time it was so popular that you could use it as a cash substitute. And when she died, she had half an inch of the red poisonous lipstick on her lips. But it wasn't that she wanted to die looking good. She believed, as did many others during the Tudor and Elizabethan periods, that lipstick was magic. Many people believed not only that lipstick was magic, but also that it could ward off death. And so, Elizabeth applied more and more of the mercury lipstick whenever she was sick. Mercury poisoning can cause memory loss, depression, or in extreme cases, death. These signs are something she experienced towards her death. In 1562, when Elizabeth was still in her late 20s, she came down with a violent fever that left her bedridden. Upon being examined by doctors, it became clear that Elizabeth had contracted smallpox. Millions of people got smallpox every year. Up to 30% of people died of their illness. Smallpox was a terrible, contagious, and deadly disease. On average, 3 out of every 10 people who got it died. People who survived usually had scars, which were sometimes severe. While the disease wreaked havoc on Europe, killing many monarchs, it did not kill Elizabeth. Despite surviving, Elizabeth did not escape unharmed. She was left with many scars and blemishes on her skin. Elizabeth was known to be a little vain and would have any portraits of herself she didn't like destroyed. The marks and blemishes left by smallpox must have left her with a desperate need to cover them up with more and more layers of lead and mercury. In her youth, Elizabeth had used a lot less makeup, but following her battle with smallpox, she began applying more makeup, creating what we think of today as her iconic look. Perhaps the worst thing about Elizabeth's beauty routine wasn't the makeup itself, but how long she left it on for. We see most modern women leave their makeup until the next day, but for the Queen, the Venetian cerise was left on for a week with daily touch-ups, leaving plenty of time for the lead to soak into her skin. When it eventually came time to remove the makeup, things somehow get even worse. She used a mixture of eggshells, alum, and even more mercury. This would only worsen the effects of the makeup that was killing Elizabeth. Towards the end of her life, Elizabeth began to suffer from bouts of melancholy following the deaths of several of her close companions. It seemed that all those she loved and depended on were dying and leaving her. Her grief, combined with a belief that she was losing her grip on her court and country, led to her becoming severely depressed. During her final days, Elizabeth expressed regret about ordering the execution of her cousin, Mary Queen of Scots. Sir Robert Carey recorded that Elizabeth shed many tears and sighs, manifesting her innocence that she never gave consent to the death of that queen. She refused to have a mirror in any of her rooms. Along with her poor physical health, she showed signs of declining cognitive ability and delirium. Despite this, her stubbornness pushed her forwards. She refused to rest and reportedly stood for hours upon hours, perhaps afraid that if she were to sit down she would never get up again. She likely knew how frail she was and feared that her death was close. It was reported that the queen was haunted by visions of her frail body, and that a playing card with a nail through its head was found on the queen's chair toward the end of her life. She refused to let doctors physically examine her, possibly because she feared the worst. Queen Elizabeth died at Richmond Palace on the 24th of March 1603, having become a legend in her lifetime. At the time of her death she was reported to have a full inch of makeup on her face. By this point, she had lost most of her teeth, suffered hair loss, refused to be attended to and bathed. Elizabeth Southwell also reported that the Queen's corpse was so full of noxious vapors that it exploded in her lead coffin. There are a number of possible causes for Elizabeth's death. A popular belief is that Elizabeth gradually became ill and died due to blood poisoning. This could be through the use of the popular lead-based toxic and dangerous makeup of the era which Elizabeth was so fond of. Other proposed causes of death include pneumonia, streptococcus, infected tonsils, or cancer. Close to the time of her death, Elizabeth's coronation ring had grown into her flesh. This was due to the fact that she never had it removed during the 45 years of her reign. Her doctors insisted that the ring had to be removed using a dangerous procedure, and within a week Elizabeth died. Well, the cause still remains unknown, but she slowly caused her death with the toxic makeup she applied, which was later classified as a poison. 31 years after Elizabeth's death really had a big hand in her death and declining health. If you find this video interesting, please support our channel by subscribing.